gentlemen, please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Here.
Felicity.
Present.
Butcher.
Here.
Krzyzewski. Here. Freighters.
Here.
Hilkhauser.
Here.
Cirulis.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
A quorum is established.
Any amendments to tonight's agenda? Okay, we do have several employee appreciation of service awards to give out tonight. We have 2 officers and 2 from Public Works. So if Officers Jacob and Davis wanted to come forward. And Chief, you want to do them separately, together? How do you want to do that? Let's do it together.
All right, we'll do Officer Jekyll first. Patrol Officer Chris Jekyll joined the Yorkville Police Department in December 2013. In 2015 and again in 2017, he was awarded certificates of appreciation by the Alliance Against Intoxicated Motorists for his number of DUI arrests in Yorkville for those years. He received a commendation from the Plano Police Department in August of 2016 for his quick response and assistance on a person with a gun call. He is also trained as an evidence technician and assists in documentation of crime scenes. And Officer Kyle Davis joined the Yorkville Police Department in December of 2013. He came to Yorkville PD with an associate's degree in criminal justice and was a former full-time officer for the Mendota Police Department. In May of 2014, he received a commendation from the supervisor for going above and beyond his normal duties in his response to a suspicious vehicle complaint, which resulted in finding and seizing of over 40 grams of cannabis, paraphernalia, and drug equipment, leading to 2 Class 4 felony arrests.
And thank you, gentlemen, for all you do, and we have a couple of certificates here for you that I would like to read. So, certificate of recognition, the Mayor and City Council of the United City of Yorkville present this certificate to Chris Jacob in grateful appreciation for your 5 years of service and dedication to the United City of Yorkville from 2013 to 2018. Thank you. Presented this 11th day of December 2018. Davis here says the same thing except to Kyle Davis.
Yes, I'll send them to you tomorrow. Posey? Thank you.
Hold on, let's not get you.
Nobody wants mine.
Okay, we do have a couple of Public Works employees, and Matt Sang, who's been here for a long, long time, and Miss Olchie. Would you boys come forward?
Come on up, Dad. First of all, thank you guys for being here. I'm going to do Tom's Holkey first. Tom came to us 5 years ago from the Page County Forest Preserve. Started with us as a sewer operator in October of 2013. Not only does Tom work in the sewer, he works in streets, he works with water, he works with parks. He lends a hand wherever he can. He is very good at what he does. We've sent him to school for training on the backhoe, skid steer, paper, even though he came with some of that experience. I think it's really been helpful for all of our groups to have another set of eyes, ears, and hands that can help. And we look forward to many, many more years of working with you, Tom. I appreciate that. Thanks, Rick. Matthew. Matthew, years, you made it. Congratulations. You're now a group of 8. There's 8 of us that have made it 20 years or more. So, congratulations. Matt came to us in the 90s, believe that. It was a time when Yorkville, he was one of 2 people in the entire street department. So he's seen the town grow from, growing up here, you've seen it go from 2,000 to 20,000.
Gravel roads to paved roads, huh?
Yeah. Matt is in our street department, and Matt's specialty is MUTCD and signs. So that's who we look to for all of our street signs, all of our regulatory signs. This is the guy we go to when we need a recommendation. Besides that, he's been a very instrumental part of our street department for 20 years. Plowing, he assists on water main breaks, he assists in the sewer department. At Public Works, we kind of have to do everything, and for 20 years, you've done just that, and I appreciate that. I really do. And Matt lives here in town, grew up here in town, and hopefully has a much longer career here in town. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, very much. I know sometimes Public Works doesn't get the recognition that maybe the police do, but without you guys, our toilets don't flush, and our streets aren't clear, so thank you very much. So, Tom, we have a certificate of recognition for you. The Mayor and City Council of the United City of Yorkville present this certificate to Thomas Sulky in grateful appreciation of your 5 years of service and the dedication to the United City of Yorkville from 2013 to 2018. Thank you. Matt, we have a big prize for you. In grateful appreciation for your 20 years of service, of dedicated service to the United City of Yorkville. Matt Singh, 98 through 2018. Woo! Did you want to take any pictures?
Here we go.
All right. I do have one more presentation that I added at the last minute. I do have an Eagle Scout here that I would like to recognize. And before I call our Eagle Scout up, I would like to read to you, as I do with every Eagle Scout, the significance of the Eagle Scout rank. So Webster's Dictionary describes an eagle as a large bird of prey with sharp vision and powerful wings, famous for their strength, size, grace, and keen vision. It is a national emblem for the United States. Though the eagle is found throughout the world, it is never found in abundance. It is always rare and is always a superb specimen. In scouting, the eagle stands for strength of character and for knowledge of all phases of scouting. The eagle represents an understanding of community and nation and a deep respect for both. The eagle is a symbol of what a young man has done, as well as what that young man will do and will be when he grows to manhood. The eagle is a leader. The eagle is respected, both by his peers and by his adult leaders. The Eagle Scout Award is the highest award available to youth members of the Boy Scouts of America. It represents many years of dedicated effort and the successful completion of a long process which starts when a young man becomes a Boy Scout. It is a demonstration of how people working together can truly help mold a young man with a solid sense of leadership, citizenship, and responsibility. Not every boy, nor every scout qualifies for the high rank of Eagle. The physical requirements are strenuous, as set forth in the required merit badges. Mental requirements are unusual and require much more than average intelligence. Perhaps an even more difficult and more important requirement for the Eagle rank is a personal character of the scout as reflected in his attitudes toward God and the ideals of scouting, as reflected in his cooperation and service to others in church, the home, school, and community. The applicant must have a high degree of the spirit of cheerful service to others, which is the basis of good citizenship. The attainment of the Eagle Scout rank is indeed the highest honor that a scout may achieve. When a boy enters scouting, in the 3 parts of the scout oath, he promises upon his honor to do his best to do his duty, first to God and his country, second to other people by helping them at all times, and third to himself by keeping himself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Likewise, in the scout law, he promises to be trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Each is an important foundation in the building of strong character. An Eagle Scout is one who has taken the scout oath and law to which he has promised and embodied them within his character. The oath and law have become part of him. They guide and direct him. Very few scouts make it this far, only about 2% of all scouts, and it is a great achievement for all parties involved, the scout, his family, his community, his unit, and the Boy Scouts of America. Awarding the Eagle is an important and serious matter. It is a climax and goal toward which the scout has been working for many years. It is a culmination of the efforts of the parents and leaders of this scout. It is definitely an occasion for pride and for joy. So Tyler Mittendorf, please come forward. Tyler is one of the scouts that I've known since I joined Troop 40. So I've seen Tyler grow up from when he presented scouts to the Eagle Scout that he is today. So I'm very proud of you, Tyler. And can you say, I know you had a big Eagle project. I know you worked on the check on the green, correct?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so earlier this year, I led about a dozen people in painting the ceiling and replacing a few of the wire damage tiles on the topmost floor of the Jeff on the Green. It was a lot of fun.
How many volunteers did you have?
Yeah, it was there, so.
Yeah, so I know there's a lot of work, and I know this is our oldest church, so I know that they definitely appreciate your efforts. So on behalf of the city, Tyler, we would like to present you with an Eagle Scout plaque. And we're still waiting for your great plate to come in, so I'll get that to you at the troop meeting. So on behalf of the city of Yorkville, Tyler, keep up the good work. Let's big things out of it. How many Eagle Scouts do we have in the room? I know there's at least one more sitting in the audience. There's 3 of us here. Okay. World could always use more Eagle Scouts. Okay, on to regular business. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Wilson,
Aye.
Olszewski,
Abstain.
Rulis,
Aye.
Ritters,
Aye.
Funkasser,
Aye.
Vogt,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Butcher.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, I did skip over citizen comments on items that are on the agenda. Is there anyone here who has comments other than the solar farm? Because we'll do that right before we get to the solar farm. Any other citizen comments? Okay. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the special city council meeting of November 10th, 2018, and the regular city council meetings of November 13th, 2018, and November 27th, 2018, as presented.
You said.
You made a motion, second.
You gotta be louder than that, Peterson.
Motion.
There you go. Any comments, questions, or corrections on the minute? All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting schedule for 2019 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions? Roll call, please.
You said it.
Just pick somebody.
Look at all 3 of us.
Peterson, Olszewski,
Aye.
Vogt,
Aye.
Butcher,
Aye.
Ritters,
Aye.
Rulis,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Funkasser.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'll entertain a motion to approve a resolution approving a revised salary schedule and step increase and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Peterson,
Aye.
Vogt,
Aye.
Butcher,
Aye.
Ritters,
Aye.
Rulis,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Funkasser,
Aye.
Olszewski.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, we have no committee reports, nothing from Park Board, one item under Planning and Zoning Commission. I'll entertain a motion to approve an ordinance approving a special use for a solar farm with freestanding solar energy systems and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions? I know, Dan, I'm sure you have some things you want to say. If any members of the audience have any comments, now would be the appropriate time, maybe before Dean.
Good evening. Dan Kramer on behalf of the petitioner GRNE Solar, and then Kendall County. We have the representatives from Kendall County here tonight, and we also have Eric Peterman. I understand you'd like to see a brief presentation. We went through public hearing at Plan Commission last month, got a unanimous vote. We also spent 2 private meetings that we invited the city and the county board members, but indicated be careful about open meetings violation, about how many would attend. One was with the board for the subdivision, and then the second one was open to the membership of the subdivision in behind us, Blackberry Woods. At the membership meeting, we had a little bit over 30 people there, and at the Plan Commission public hearing, which was the next night, it got reduced down to, I believe, 9 residents showed up. 2 testified in favor of the project, and I think that was very significant to point out if you didn't read the transcript of the Plan Commission, because they were the 2 owners who own houses right backing up to where the solar array would be placed. We did have 1 person speaking an objection, and then 1 person asking questions. The rest didn't testify. So I'll be quiet because we promised to keep it under 10 minutes as far as the presentation, and I'll let Eric give you the technical because he's way more qualified than I. Thank you.
Ooh, nice mood lighting. Thanks for your attention tonight. My name is Eric Peterman with GRNE Solar, and also just a second, congratulations to the service award winners. I think it's so cool that we see that in today's world where somebody stays as long as they do in one spot and not jump around. So very cool to see that, and I commend you for recommending or for commending it. So you may or may not be aware this has been a long process getting to this point, so we're excited to be before you tonight. As Dan said, we've had several meetings leading up to this, and we've gone through the special use permit. Also met specifically with the neighborhood that is next to the solar array, so we've had a chance to discuss this with the residents, and have actually changed our design based on some of the feedback. So we've tried to do our due diligence with making sure that we've taken into account as much as possible. My background, I'm born and raised in Illinois, grew up near Springfield, Illinois, started this solar company, and have focused specifically on the Midwest and Illinois, even inside that. Background is industrial engineering. I'll run through this presentation, as I know some of you have probably seen it before, but happy to take questions at any time as well, so feel free to jump in. Hopefully technology works for us tonight. We'll get moving. So brief run through on how solar works, just to make sure that we're all starting from the same baseline. So this is a picture of a house, but it doesn't matter where your solar panels are. Solar panels are usually placed to where you have direct access to the sun. It knocks around electrons and creates what's called DC current. Then there's a box called an inverter. What the inverter does, the inverter is the brains of the system, and it converts the DC energy into alternating current. So from direct current to alternating current, like what runs the lights or the laptop here in the room before us. Then that is used for loads, whatever's connected to the service panel. So it's going to run anything that's connected to this service panel. If there's any excess power, it will then be pushed on to the electric grid in this area, which is ComEd. This is a picture of what a ground mount solar array will look like. You can see you've got the steel structure, the racking that's in the back, and then the solar panel is being installed right here, and then the inverter usually sits right behind the solar panel to where it's protected, and that's really the main electronics of the system. A breakdown of what is a solar panel. So you've got an aluminum frame that encases it. This is kind of a deconstructed solar panel here. You've got the aluminum frame, you've got a double pane of glass, just like you'd see on a car windshield. You've got the solar cells inside, which are made up of these materials here, the sand, silicon, and ingot. And these are non-metallic, non-toxic materials. And that's the electrons that create the energy. You've got another layer of glass on the back, and then you've got the leads that come off of the solar panel, which actually transmits the energy that's created. The racking structure, you can see there's one post that will sit in the ground, and then it comes up and supports the structure above. This actually is a tracker system, so the solar panels actually move throughout the day to follow the track of the sun. It makes it a more efficient system. So you can see this is one of the motors that will rotate the solar panel throughout the day from the east in the morning to the west in the evening. This is a picture of an inverter. It's not very exciting. It's a white box, but inside of it is where all the magic happens with the electronics. So you can see some of the guts here. There's different terminals that are located here where those leads of the solar panels are connected. And then there's capacitors and resistors, which ends up changing the DC to AC current, and then that's what's pushed into the service panel. The topic of sound came up throughout the meetings, and just to set a level playing field, here's just a normal chart of decibel levels. So this was just a basic chart just to get an idea of what the numeric value of a decibel is. So in a quiet rural area, you might see about 30 decibels if you're taking measurements. A normal conversation, like my voice right now, might be about 60 decibels. And as you get further to the right, you can see a car horn or a jet takeoff is where it gets into the triple digits of decibel levels. So just to give you a reference number, as we go on, the solar panels themselves, as they create the energy, they produce zero noise, 0 decibels. So there's no noise that comes out of the solar panels. For the tracker system, since there is a motor that's going to move the solar panels from the east to the west, that was recorded at about 50 decibels, standing 10 feet away. So if we go back to the chart, that would be in between a library whisper and a refrigerator, so it's going to be a very soft noise. The other important thing to note is that the motors actually only run they run in 15-second intervals, but they only kick on every 10 minutes. So it's not like you're going to run the motor the entire course of the day. It's only in 10-minute intervals and in 10-minute increments and 15-second intervals, and only during the day while the sun is shining, not at night when there's no sun. Next is the inverters. So here's a couple pictures of the inverter box and then some decibel readings from that. So the reason why there's noise coming from the inverter is that there's fans inside that keep the electronics cool. Just like Christy's computer that's sitting on the desk here has a CPU fan inside that keeps the electronics cool inside that machine. So the fan that's running is really what's producing the noise coming out of the inverter. And as we're standing, I believe this is about 5 feet away from the inverter, you can see it's at, all of these are right in the 60 decibel range, which again is normal conversation like my voice you can hear right now. We actually took some videos of an existing solar array, and this is one that's functioning right now. And those decibel readings that I just showed you on the previous slide, these are all videos, and they didn't work last time, so I'm not going to bother with them right now. Hopefully we can get past this slide. There we go. This was another video of walking through the solar field. We played this so that the residents could have a better understanding of what it's like inside the solar field. So we walked through. This is about, I think, a 30 to 45-second clip of just live action walking through the solar field, so we were able to provide that. EMF study, so the electromagnetic force that's given off, just like cell phones and laptops and everything else in this world that gives off the EMF. So the electric power system, which would be a solar energy system, is actually located at the far left, which would be extremely low frequency. And as we move further to the right, you'll see cell phone, satellite dish are in the radio waves category. Moving further to the right, infrared, ultraviolet, and then your X-ray machines and medical devices to the far right, where it would be considered dangerous. So, as I mentioned, the key point is solar is on the far left. So here's an aerial view of the location of the array. You might know the courthouse and the sheriff's office. the solar array is planned for this 7-acre plot of land right here. And what's important to note is that we actually changed this, but the location of the inverters and the tracking motors are going to be run down the center of the array, so as to move it as far away as possible from the nearby residents. And so you can see there's this number is probably closer to 400 feet, but there's at least 300 feet between where the inverters and the motors are located and where the nearest house will be located. And once you get beyond 25 feet from it starts to fade at 10, but definitely at 25, you're not going to be able to hear any noise coming from the inverters or the motors at all. So the fact that the nearest home is over 300 feet away, there should be no cause for concern with noise or anything coming from the system itself. And as I mentioned, the solar panels don't make any noise. It's really just the inverters and the motor. The landscape layout, this was done by HLR engineering firm. This is on the southern border, and there's some detail here, and this has all been provided in the plan set, but there's some detail here laid out for the southern boundary of the solar array, which would be the boundary in between the Kendall County property and the residents on the south side. Here's a look of what that could possibly look like. So you get a visual of what that is. There's actually a fence behind here as well, an opaque fence, so you won't be able to see anything behind that. So you've got the landscape plan, you've got the fence, and then you've got the solar array behind it, but standing at ground level, you'll never know what's on the other side of that fence. You won't be able to see any of the solar panels or anything else behind the fence. The topic of conversation came up throughout the meetings. If solar doesn't go in here, what could, or what are the plans for this space? Because right now it's just a temporary holding place for a lot of trees, which were not meant to be there for a long period of time. So something is going to be developed on this plot of land. The Kendall County owns it, and what was discussed was potential expansion for office buildings, potential expansion of the jail. They're not exactly sure what would go in, but right now they're pretty set on moving forward with the solar project. So this was an excerpt from I think the 20-year capital improvement plan that were other topics of discussion for what might go in this place. One of the questions that came up is, with the solar array being located so close to a residential neighborhood, what would that do to property values? And we actually were very fortunate to have this exact study address that question. And most of the times, because solar is so new, you're not going to find too much data or too much relevance in the Midwest. There's been a lot of development on both the East and West coasts, but this study is specifically from the Midwest and for projects in Illinois and Indiana. So it's directly applicable to our geographic location here in the Midwest. And it shows that the feet from the solar panel to the lot, and you can see some of these are in the 83 feet range, the 300 foot, 160 foot. So this is specifically targeted at a large solar array next to a residential neighborhood. These solar projects are actually much larger than what we're proposing, and on some scales 10 times larger than what we're proposing. And the results from the study show, as you can see on the far right, no impact is the official result, but the number here is actually home values went up by almost 2% with the solar array being located next to them. Some of these questions were answered throughout the presentation. The property values we discussed. There's no harmful chemicals emitted. There's nothing emitted from the solar panels once they're in operation. Glare, we discussed previous meetings. The solar panels are meant to absorb light, not to reflect it. If there were any glare, it would go to the east and the west of this system. Nothing would go to the south where the residential neighborhood is. And everything's going to be enclosed by a fence as well. We talked about radiation. This is actually a picture from an elementary school that we did in Northwest Indiana, where they actually built the array on their campus. They're building it into the educational curriculum for the school. You can see the students out being taught, and there's actually the kids can go out and test the voltages. Everything's safe. You can touch the solar panels. You can touch the racking equipment. and they get a chance to do different experiments on what does shade do to the solar panels and how much does that affect the efficiency of the output. So it's something that's obviously proven to be safe for educational curriculum. Site maintenance will be maintained by us, GR&E Solar. Everything will be taken care of. We want the system to be functioning at its most potential as well. Other projects that we've done, this was just brought up throughout the process from staff. We're one of the largest solar installers in Illinois. We were awarded that by Solar Power World magazine. You can see some of our other projects that we've done here. This was an airport that we did up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We've done large school systems, and we've got several other projects in the works for development in Illinois for the upcoming season as well. This is just a slide showing the support from environmental groups. So if there's any concern for solar panels being harmful to the environment, you've got folks like Sierra Club, National Geographic, U.S. Department of Energy. All of these folks are in support of solar and have come out in support of solar. In fact, on the EPA campus, they actually have a solar array that is almost identical in size to the solar array being proposed here in Yorkville. So I think it goes to show you that if the EPA is comfortable putting solar on their property, there shouldn't be any concern for it being in the neighborhood. And this was just a summary of next steps. So a couple of the key items, like we mentioned, that no home will be closer than 300 feet from the nearest inverter or racking system. Inverters only operate during the day, nothing at night, only when the sun's shining. Emitted sound will be just within 10 or 25 feet of the inverters and the racking system, or I'm sorry, the tracker, the motor. Field will be regularly maintained by GR&E Solar. The property value study showed that, living near a solar panel system has been rigorously tested, and there's been no correlation between health concerns. We talked about the property value study as well, that there was a slight increase to no impact. I think everything else was covered here. And one thing also I'll just mention is the urgency on timing for this. I know this has been a long process and a long time in the making. This is a different scenario as well. I know there was a previous solar project that came through, which ended up rescinding the application. That was, I believe it was a community solar project. Community solar is where you can pick a plot of land anywhere and give the energy to ComEd and then benefit from as the developer. So you can pick any plot of land anywhere, give it to ComEd, and get paid. This is different to where this is what's called behind the meter. So Kendall County is putting this on their property to directly reduce their energy bills. They're not selling to ComEd. They're not, benefiting from that way. Their main purpose and motivation behind the product is to reduce their operating costs, which in turn, obviously, is helpful for the taxpayer as well. And Chris Childress from Progressive Energy might talk also if you'd like, and he can talk about the financial benefits. This project is supposed to save the taxpayers about $4 million over the life of the system, which is a 25-year term. The importance of the incentives is that come early January, there's a lot of solar development in the works right now, and there's funding, incentive funding from the utility companies and the state that are going to be distributed in Q1 of next year. The application process opens January 15. There's been discussion of there's more products than there is money available. So getting in on that January 15th opening date is very key to be first in line to be able to receive the funding needed to support the project. So that's one urgency that I just wanted to make sure was clear. And then assuming everything gets approved and the incentives are awarded and funded for the project, the construction wouldn't begin until probably April and May of next year. So we're still a ways out in terms of the planning and development portions, but in order to hit the January 15 deadline, it is key to move forward. So I know that was quick. I ran through it to try and save time, but if there's questions, I'm happy to answer those as well, or if there's anything else. But I appreciate your time and your consideration for this project.
Thank you, Eric. First off, I definitely have to commend you guys on working with the neighbors. The fact that nobody is here to speak in opposition to this project speaks volumes in my mind.
Sure.
Yeah, good work there. Because obviously my biggest concern was for the neighbors. I know the sheriff had a concern about the fencing, but sounds like all that's been alleviated.
Yeah, it's been great communication along the way. We've had multiple inputs from different parties, and we've done our best to try to accommodate all of those requests. So there's been a lot of changes along the way as well.
Now, is this one of the actual panels that's gonna go in at the?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I forgot this was standing behind me. So, this is actually a solar panel, so you can come up and touch it if you like. This is all safe. Like I said, it's aluminum frame around it. It's glass in the front, just like your windshield, which protects the technology inside. But this, you can see it's just a little bit shorter than I am and a little bit wider than my frame also. But usually it's about 3¼ feet wide and about 5 or 6 feet tall. But this is an actual solar panel. I'll flip it around so you can see the back on the leads. The wires that come off that will then plug in and create the distribution of the energy into the electric grid.
Now, is this, this technology is still pretty much in its infancy, I would say. Is this technology changing? I mean, is a panel like this going to go obsolete anytime soon? Or, do you foresee these panels being the same for the next 25 years?
Yeah, so the manufacturers, they warranty the panel's production for 25 years. So there certainly will be increase in technology development that they'll make more efficient panels, but the production for this specific solar panel is guaranteed by the manufacturer for 25 years. So if it ever ever stops working, it's covered under warranty to be replaced. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I was more interested in how the technology is changing.
Yeah.
Like in the future, are we going to see these giant solar farms like this, or do you think something else will come along?
It's hard to tell. There's been a lot of development. I'd say 5 or 10 years ago was really when things ramped up. And as I mentioned, the West Coast and the East Coast, we've seen a lot of development. Things have kind of plateaued a little bit recently in terms of the square footage of the panel is about the same. There's 2 sizes, 60 cell and a 72 cell. That's pretty typical throughout all manufacturers. The module efficiency and the power output, I think, continues to kind of slowly get more efficient, but we haven't seen any big leaps or jumps in the past 5 to 7 years. So it's kind of plateaued a little bit, and we'll see what happens from here. It's hard to have a crystal ball, but with the manufacturer warranting it for 25 years, we feel good about the longevity of the system.
And manufacturer probably in China, I would imagine, or?
About 90% of all modules in production are from overseas. There are some other countries that produce modules, America being one of them, but not a significant player in the market. The manufacturer is overseas, but we've installed tens of thousands of solar panels, and I think we've had 2 go bad in our 8 years of installing these.
Okay. Any questions?
What was the decision with the sheriff as far as the fencing?
When I talked to him, he said he was fine with the solid fence and camera. And I guess the other question, I know the dialysis center wanted some additional landscaping. Did that get resolved, or, obviously they're not here to object.
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay.
We have not spoken with them direct. We did get a call from Christy and Jason, and they got emails to us from your staff saying that the dialysis center would like to see the same type of landscaping and solid fence on the west of the project as is going in the south. We told staff we were fine with that, so I apologize. We didn't know who you were before the meeting, but yes, we have agreed to that.
So you are going to landscape it as you are.
It'll be the exact same on the west as it is in the south, with the solid fence and the trees.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not very City Hall.
See, we can be easy at times. So we,
So I also believe
there's a commercial spot the city has in between their center and this, right? Isn't there a possibility that commercial buildings could also go in between?
There's a lot there, yeah.
Yeah, so technically someone could put some type of commercial in there.
Sure.
Chris, you have something?
I had a question. Reading through the packet, this has some type of a mechanism that deals with high wind scenarios. You know, we get a lot of very high winds out here, you know, windstorms. How do these hold up with winds, you know, tornadoes or microburst type of things?
Yeah, if a tornado comes through, it's going to rip it out. You know, that's, I don't
If it's
think
just
there's much you
dealing
can do
with,
that.
You know, your regular wind gusts.
Yeah,
like
normal regular
miles.
wind gusts. This is all rated for, I think it's 120 miles per hour, which is all in compliance with the building code. As I mentioned, these are on a tracker, so they'll start off facing the east at the beginning part of the day, and they'll slowly rotate with the sun and start to face the west. If there's ever a time when there's a strong wind gust that would jeopardize the integrity of the racking system, it actually goes back to horizontal to protect
That's
itself.
what I want to make sure is that it does do that, because
Yeah.
obviously that's a lot of glass, that's a lot of material.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a backtracking feature to where it goes back to horizontal to protect itself until it's safe. And that's actually where it sits at night in that same position as well.
I'm very happy that we're settled on the 7.5-foot solid vinyl fence all the way around. That, I think, most importantly for the residents to the south side, that works. Obviously, from the south of the jail, they have a solid fence. It's wood, but this works. I think the landscape plan, as it's presented, is a little weak on the south side. I know it's been reviewed by our landscape consultant, but it doesn't seem to have a whole lot of evergreen material to really screen that. I know some areas here we have a grade change, you know, from what's out there in the residential, and it actually, further west you go, it drops down in grade. So there's a little differential. So on the residential side, they sit a little higher than the other side.
Sure.
So when that fence drops down, I'd actually like to see a little more evergreen put into the landscape plan to help that.
Okay.
The evergreen are going to grow faster and help to provide an actual better screen.
Yeah.
So that'd be my one request, is that we add a little more landscape of an evergreen nature.
Sure. This is way out of my area of expertise, and I apologize for that. Dan, back me up here, but I believe the comments from the citizens or the residents were not at the evergreens, but I just want to make sure that we're taking in all feedback. Maybe, I know you're a little
Yeah,
bit more
they seem to like the deciduous trees better, frankly, but we'll work with staff.
I mean, I did talk to a couple, but they may not have been the ones, you know, I know there were the two that live right on it.
Yeah, that was
were
really helpful to have them there.
Yeah, if you don't live right up there, and I know there's still some lots that are there, if you're not there, if they've voiced their piece. The other ones that were a little further in, there were a couple that have mentioned they'd like more, but I'm going to acquiesce then to those who live next to it currently.
Well, and one other fail-safe, we did speak with the developer who owns the two lots that aren't developed there yet, and he had absolutely no objection, was fine with the landscape plan as well.
And it will be 7.5 as stipulated. That's going to be the
Yep,
top of
correct.
Anyone else?
I just had another question on what Chris just mentioned. So if something was to happen with these panels, where's the liability, the insurance or whatever? Is that going to fall on the county? Are we going to have to be covered on something too? Or?
Well, number one, it's on county property, so they're the owner and it's a lease. One of the requirements of the written agreement that was approved between the county and GRNE is they have to provide liability insurance and name the county as a party insured. And I thought Christy and Jason had a good idea when we met with them informally, or I did about 2 weeks ago, and that is attach a copy of the lease agreement between the county and GRNE as an exhibit to the ordinance. And there is a decommissioning plan right in their agreement. So the liability is strictly with GRNE indemnifying the county. I don't think you would need to be added as additional party insured because, again, you have no liability on it.
That was just my question. I didn't know if we were completely out of that if something happened.
Didn't planning and zoning ask for, did they ask for a bond or something? Or?
Yes.
That's required for a permit. If you have a decommission and a bond. So that protects us.
Right.
Just a couple points of clarification before we get too much farther down the road. One, the lease agreement is not listed as an exhibit in the current draft ordinance. So if we wanted that to be a requirement of it, to the extent the city council does, we would have to add it. And then two, the discussion on the western boundary landscaping that the petitioner just represented they would do is also not reflected in the conditions that are listed in the ordinance. So to the extent that the city council said that's a necessary component of the special use permit, we would need to amend the ordinance in that manner.
Having a copy of the lease doesn't grant us any rights or lack thereof. So we would ask that you, it's a public document, share it with us so we can put it in our file with this ordinance. However, the second point that you raised is crucial, that statement with regard to the landscaping, because that exceeds what had previously put in writing, should be added to this ordinance. So Christie, if you know exactly what it is and you would share with us the language now, we will ask that the ordinance as presented be considered with that language.
A continuation of the landscaping from the south boundary to the west boundary, along the fence line.
Section 3C of the ordinance does contemplate the landscape plan as submitted as of October 29th, so that's probably where we would amend the
All right.
ordinance to
Do
include
we need a
western
motion for
boundary.
that?
So we
But it-
haven't moved this ordinance yet. So if we amend it now, we can then consider it with the additional
That's what I meant, do
language.
we need a motion to amend the ordinance?
No, because we haven't put the ordinance on the, please continue. Right, so, and continuation?
Continuation of the landscaping along the southern border to the western border, along the fence line.
Along the southern border to the western border. So what would be put into motion would include that language.
We already had a motion in a second.
I apologize.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Right
do
at
the
the
motion
start.
in a second. We just went to the thing. In which case, I concur. You are right. Would you
Can you
please
just
make?
repeat that one more time?
When the presentation was on, I wrote. Please, would you make a motion to amend to add that language, sir?
I make a motion to amend the motion as represented by Christie.
Second.
Thank you.
And do we need to vote on that amendment?
On the amendment to vote, and then on
So
the main
roll call
motion.
vote on the amendment.
Cook,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Got it.
Aye.
Critters,
Aye.
Churlis,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Funkhauser,
Aye.
Olszewski,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, back to the original amended motion. Any other questions? And Chris, thank you, that is what I was looking for. So, I was just kind of curious how much the tax credits were worth, all the rebates, and that pretty much spells it out pretty good. Yeah. Well, I'm always, with these grants, you say it's zero cost to taxpayers, well, yes and no, you know.
Zero low. I just had one question about the maintenance of the turf. What is going to be the turf inside the fence, and how's it going to be maintained?
I believe they're showing low-mo fescue under it, because one of the issues was your
It's only 1
ordinance
foot.
had them really close to the ground where you couldn't maintain anything, and so they're raised up a little bit here, so yeah.
And with staff that we're gonna, I know the other one that was proposed, they were talking more wildflower, natural, native, but this will just be a low mow fescue, twice a year mow type of a thing.
Right, state IDOT type mix.
That works for me.
Eric, I did have one question, more out of curiosity. I'm sure it's been answered in previous meetings, but how much energy will this provide to the county complex? I mean, is it gonna power half a building, whole building, 3 buildings?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, the one solar array that you saw is actually split into 3 separate buildings. So the health department, the courthouse, and the public safety office. So it's the usage is going to 3 different places, and we sized it appropriately to be able to offset as much as we could at each spot. Christine, offhand, any idea what it was? a little over half total, yeah, when you combine everything together. So it's going in 3 separate places, but it's about half of what the usage is on those 3 buildings.
That's pretty impressive, though. Okay. Anything else? Okay, then we'll take a roll call vote on the amended motion.
Busher,
Aye.
Readers,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Losna,
Aye.
Lefferts,
Aye.
Machuski,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Goat.
Aye.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, and good luck getting your grants from the state.
Thank you very much for the time, and as to your first point, Ms. Orr, they do have a copy at staff of the agreement. I gave it to
Excellent.
Christie and Jason.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no city council report, city clerk's report.
Yes, I would just ask that, if possible, I always want to do the minutes precise and accurate, and it is hard at times because I'm going deaf, I think, losing
What?
hearing. That I don't hear well, and I don't, so if whoever's speaking, if you could just speak maybe a little louder and clearer, I'd appreciate it. That's all.
Do we have any community or liaison reports?
What a jerk.
Beth can't do anything.
Hearing none, any staff reports?
No reports.
Additional business. Did want to mention that myself and the mayors of Oswego, Plano, and Montgomery are going downtown tomorrow to meet with representatives from the RTA to get some questions answered about what we need to do as far as RTA and bringing Metro out here. We're going to have a preliminary meeting, get a lot of questions answered. So we'll follow up with that. Any other additional business? No executive session? Any citizen comments? Anything you'd like to talk about? Tony Scott's leaving us, I wouldn't know that. One more meeting? Okay. So make sure we're ready for citizen comments at the meeting. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
All right.